I'm Dr. Liz Stafford, and this is Primary Music in Conversation. My guest for this episode is Anna Gower. Some of you may be familiar with Anna for her work with Musical Futures and in secondary schools, and also with Trinity College London over here in the UK. However, for the last 7 years, she's had a totally different adventure and she's been teaching in an international school in Thailand. I'm really excited to chat to our very first international guest to find out how primary music is organised and running in her school. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, Anna. Welcome to Primary Music in Conversation. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, Liz. So I'm Anna Gower. I am currently the head of primary music at St Andrews International School in Bangkok, Thailand.
I have been so excited to speak to you because you're the first person that's outside the UK that we've spoken to so far. And obviously, we're both British, so let's get it out of the way now. And I need to know what the weather is like in Bangkok.
Well, do you know what? Normally I would say beautiful, sunny, glorious, and everything else, but we haven't got an extended rainy season. So, whilst that means the temperatures are really lovely and cool, it does keep raining. And over here, it doesn't just rain, it's like the tropical downpours and everything else. So, we're looking forward to coming out the other side and entering what we call winter here, which means the temperature will drop to, I don't know, maybe 28, 25, and we'll all be freezing cold. And the kids will put on their big winter jumpers and coats and come to school all wrapped up. And the teachers, the expat teachers, will be saying, "What are you doing?" So, yeah, we're just at that kind of interesting time of year. And then we tend to go through a period of no rain and sort of coolish weather. And then it gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And we go again.
Wow. Well, it's actually bucketing it down here as well today. So we're in good company. We've got the same weather, even though we're on other
Excellent.
sides of the world.
Excellent. I don't miss the British weather.
No, I don't blame you. Um, I think our listeners would be really interested to know how you have ended up where you are, because some of them may know you from your work over here in the UK in secondary and in musical futures, and be wondering how you've ended up on the other side of the world teaching primary music.
Completely unexpected. And there's a long version that could probably take the entire podcast, because most international teachers have a story about how we came to be where we are and what brought us here, and the different pathways everyone comes from. But the short version really is, yes, I was a secondary teacher in state schools in the UK for many years. Also worked kind of as part of the project team for Musical Features in the UK alongside that job. Eventually came out of teaching to work full time for Musical Features, and then eventually moved on to other projects. I worked for Trinity College London, worked as a freelance music consultant. And at the same time, the Musical Futures organisations, there was one based in Australia and there was one based in the UK, kind of split. And the Australians started to roll out workshops in international schools and invited me to come out of the UK and join the presenting team. And I started to visit these international schools, these fantastic countries, and thinking, wow, there's a whole world out here that I had no idea really existed. And got to know a lot of teachers actually from those workshops. And you do a big workshop for 50 people in Malaysia, and then you'd bump into those same people in Singapore, and then you'd bump into them in Thailand at a different event and go, wow, there's this huge, huge community thing happening out here. And each time we landed, my colleague would say, "Oh, Anna, do you reckon you could see yourself living here?" And I go, "No, I'm safely ensconced in the UK. I've got a young family and, family commitments." And then one day we landed in Bangkok, and for the first time I thought, yeah, yeah, actually, I, I sort of can. So second time that I was in Bangkok, I got chatting to people, and a job um, opened up that I thought might be quite appropriate for my husband, who at that point, qualified teacher, was working for a music hub as a singing teacher. And, as a visiting Perry, there wasn't massive progression for him, hourly paid, tied into school contracts, choirs and evenings and things. And I thought, gosh, you're incredibly good at what you do. And if you were able to do this in one school and bring all of those benefits to kids, this could be an amazing opportunity for him and get me a bit closer to work, so I wasn't having to do all that commuting and everything else. So long story short, we up sticks, we came out, brought the family out, and 6 months later, COVID closed the world. So I found myself not able to travel to do the work that I had come out to do. My kids and husband in school kind of occupied, and I just thought, well, I need something to do. So I popped across the road to my husband's school and said, look, hey, I'm here. Is there anything you need? And they said, oh, yeah, we need a year one class teacher. And I said, right, well, obviously you're not going to be asking me because I'm a secondary music teacher. And I have absolutely no idea why you would be asking me. And they went, oh, well, we're desperate. I said, oh, all right, got nothing else to do. And then just spent the most amazing year as a year one classroom teacher, just completely starting from scratch is something I'd never done before. And as a music teacher, a specialist, I'd never had my own class. So I'd never really had the opportunity to form those relationships with the children, all these little personalities in a room, discovering, the joys of phonics and kind of early math skills, and just being so creative with everything that I'd learned through music into bringing topics alive for very young children. I absolutely loved it. And I realized that primary is really where my heart is now. And so the school said, right, well, we actually need a part-time music teacher. Anna, would you like to come and do that? And I said, well, if I'm going to go back into music, I'll go full-time. So jumped ship from that school, joined my current school as a primary music teacher full-time. And then 2 years later, took on the head of primary music role there and happily ensconced there still.
That is fantastic, and it's so interesting actually because we've spoken to quite a few people who've made the shift from secondary down to primary, and I think everybody has the same kind of story of like, oh, I thought it wouldn't be for me, and then I did it and I loved
Yeah.
it, and now I wouldn't do anything else kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And it's nice to feel like we're attracting secondary teachers down into primary, because sometimes primary teachers feel that, secondary teachers maybe look down on primary education or don't really understand what we do and don't value it enough. And it's nice to
Yeah.
know that when you come and you find it, you really enjoy it and you want to stay there.
Absolutely. And I think as a parent, as well as as your own children go through the school system, as a secondary teacher, you become much more invested in what's happening in primary, but also that transition. And, for many years, whilst I was in the UK, transition became a really important topic of sort of research and study, and then putting into place a program with my secondary school, with my local primary schools, and realizing exactly as you say, I knew nothing, and that there was a lot to be learned from a secondary school, looking back at the primary system from where the children are coming and thinking, yeah, you know what, we have to replan what we're doing. We have to look again at what those children are bringing with them. We have to look at the experience, this is again another podcast probably to discuss, but my interest in primary, has come from a long way back. It's just that I still viewed it with this, how do you do this? How do you navigate these small children from one place to another? How are you just smiling all the time? How are you, you know, communicating your wishes when they're all like a box of jumping frogs? At least with the older kids, you kind of like, do this, do that, off you go. So yeah, it took a little while, and that kind of big change for me to go, and you know what, kids are kids, and actually the enthusiasm and the energy that younger children bring, and what's possible when you give younger children some agency, and the creativity and the enjoyment and the love that they have for everything that they do, really kind of balances out some of the challenges, especially the keeping smiling all the time, which you can be more grumpy at secondary, I find.
No comment. So tell us a bit about how music is organised in your school, like in terms of your staffing and your timetabling and all that kind of nuts and bolts stuff.
Sure. Well, I've thought about this because, what I don't want to do is kind of jump onto a podcast and say, oh, look, we've got all this money, we've got this staffing structure, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this, because actually the place I'd like to start with this discussion is, regardless of the primary setting you're teaching in, I feel the challenges and the mission that we have as primary music teachers, whether we're specialists, whether we're generalists, whether we're that coordinator who's just been pulled out in a staff meeting and picked on to say, right, it's your job now, you're going to do it. Doesn't matter. I feel like what we're dealing with is the same. It's just going to be on a different scale and a different level. And I'm happy to get into what I think some of those things might look like and be later. But I want to just preface with that, because I think in international schools, we're in very unique situations out here. And all of the international schools that I've visited, I've been in, I've got colleagues and friends who work in them. They're similar and they're different. So every single school has its own little quirks and its own approaches to music and its own ways in. And we're very fortunate to have this big community of international music teachers who know each other to actually be able to build a picture that what we're experiencing in our situation. So anyway, I wanted to preface with that because this isn't going to sound like a UK primary school, and therefore the music program isn't going to look and sound like a UK primary school. But important as well to kind of understand that, the international schools are kind of a thing unto themselves. They're not really a private school that you would see in the UK. They're not a state school. They're a bit of everything, very much their own unique communities. So my school, we are a huge international all-through school, quite long established in Bangkok. We are two campuses. So we have a high school campus, kids transition at year 7, and we have a primary school campus. And it has grown hugely in the last few years, particularly post-COVID, whilst working extremely hard to retain this sense of community that our school has always had. And it's been built very specifically around being a school community. So that is great for music because music is central to the community and the ethos of the school. So I was listening to some of the previous podcasts about 3-form entry. We have 9 classes in year 6, 8 in year 7. Sorry, wait a minute. I'm going the wrong way. I need to go backwards. 9 in year 6, 8 in year 5, probably going to 9 next year, 7 in year 4, 7 in year 3, 6 in year 2, 5 in year 1, 3 in reception, 2 in nursery, and 1 in our very early years. But the reason that those are smaller numbers is simply because we just don't have space for more classes. If we had more space, we would be opening more classes because the international schools are booming here. And every school is bursting at the seams, and more schools opening all the time. So a music program in that situation is going to be big. So in the primary campus, we have 3 full-time music teachers. I'm the head of the primary music campus. We have 2 other full-time teachers, one of whom is a specialist in younger years, early years. That's where her passions lie. And my other colleague teaches across FS3, that's reception, all the way to year 6. I also teach 2 hours a week in year 7 because transition, as I mentioned earlier, is very important to me, and I want to see my children through, and I want to see where they're going, and also, make sure that what we're doing is feeding into what they're doing. We have 7 peripatetic instrument teachers that support our year 5 and 6 instrument program, which I'll explain what that looks like in a minute. That's quite unique too. It's like this huge beast, which is magnificent and yet kind of pushing at every single opportunity and needs quite careful management, but is actually amazing. So children in our school, every child has an hour of classroom music in a primary school per week. And children from reception to year 6 will also have 30 minutes of year group singing. Before we got so big, that would be whole year groups. So we were having 200 kids or 150 kids in one room at the time, one teacher trying to kind of get them singing. But we're too big now, we don't fit in the room anymore. So we've split now into 2. And that's been great because we can do a little bit more kind of consolidated singing work within that singing structure. At the high school, different, I won't go into too much detail, but they have 2 hours a week. So they have 1 hour a week instrument lesson on the musical instrument on our year 5 to 9 instrument program. And then they have a second hour in the week in more general classroom music. So it's well staffed. It's very generously given lots of curriculum time. But the most generous and amazing thing of all about our school is the instrument program. So in year 5, all of the children will choose a musical instrument. They get 1 hour a week of tuition in a small group in primary and a larger group in high school, and they get given the musical instrument, and they take that through for 5 years, which is amazing.
Wow.
So embedded totally into this, you've got that progression that's quite often missing from instrument programs. You've got, that sense of children being able to go somewhere with the instrument learning. In theory, that should become then, I guess, a tool. So, whatever your instrument is the tool for you to do your composing, your improvising, your creativity. as well as learning performance, instrument skills, all of those things. But in practice, children who choose their instrument in year 5 because their best mate chose it don't necessarily want to still be playing that instrument in year 8 or year 9 because their best mate left the school 6 years ago and you haven't seen them since. So a couple of years ago, we realised that with the increase in numbers in the school, that we would really have to revisit the programme. And the other thing that was slightly missing there is that the children could only choose from 4 instruments, and there wasn't really anywhere they could go ensemble-wise. And I feel it's quite important that you don't just stand with 50 trumpets and you play a tune in unison for 5 years, but actually you might start by playing a piece in unison with the trumpets, but then you want to play the piece in unison maybe with some bass sounding instruments, or throw in some trombones there, and then you're probably going to want to be playing in 2 parts. And then what would be great is if you can get yourself into a kind of a foundational orchestra. Even if you can only play 2 or 3 notes, you can play those 2 or 3 notes in time with somebody else. And so we decided that we would need to add a few more instruments to the program, as well as an inclusive stream to that program too. So now it is, I'll tell you what the instruments are: trumpet, trombone, violin, cello, clarinet, flute, saxophone. And the reason those instruments were chosen is a very sort of long story, which I won't go into now, but what we're trying to do is expand it. And then the other really important thing about our school and the way it's set up is that we're an inclusive school. So that means that we don't have any entrance requirements. Any children are welcome to the school. We have a huge and varied range of children who come to us with additional needs. And we run a special educational needs program alongside our mainstream provision in school. And those children on that program come into mainstream, and then they have their own sort of things that happen too. And we've got children from every background. I think last count there were about 60 different nationalities in the school as well. So that means that we need to think very carefully about what inclusion really, really looks like in a music program, particularly in that instrument system. So last year we brought in an additional stream called Young Producers. And Young Producers is about using music technology, iPads, computers, rock band instruments, I guess, to become the tool for the musical learning, so that children who are just not managing to play a clarinet for 5 years have got some kind of additional option there, which is as equally valued as the traditional instruments are. And that's been crucial in the way that we've set this program up. It has to be equally valued. It's not about the children that can't. It's about the children that are showing talent and ability in that area, who are looking for different tools to those traditional instruments to become their own musical instrument, their vehicle for making music. So that's the instrument program. That's what happens in year 5. And that means that year 3 and 4 becomes quite important in preparing the children to be ready. You're giving a 10-year-old a very large saxophone in a case. You're probably going to need to put something in place for them to, be able to open the case or remember to take their instrument to lessons. So we start to introduce whole class instrumental work, but in a slightly sort of tasters in year 4. And in year 3, really, we're trying to teach the children about holistic musical skills, because the focus in 5 and 6 really does have to become about those instruments. We lose that really valuable classroom lessons. So I'd love my 5s and 6s to be jamming on instruments and composing their own music and things like that. And unfortunately, because we're having to prepare them so carefully for what they're going on to at high school, we're losing that. So we try to make sure that our 3 and 4 is really kind of varied and vibrant, and they're experiencing lots of different things. And the singing is really the spine that goes all the way through. Everybody sings. We have a choir currently of 70, but it's only 70 because we can't fit any more in the room. Because we've got waiting lists for the Key Stage 2 choir. We haven't really got any capacity left to do a Key Stage 1 and 2 choir, but we're confident that as soon as we can open something, we just need another body to be able to take that choir. We'll get lots of interest in that. So yes, that wasn't very well sequenced, but that's just a little taste of some of the things that we do.
That has ever so slightly blown my mind, and I'm sure I'm sure some of our listeners will be thinking the same thing, but also perhaps contemplating a move to an international school as soon as possible.
Yeah. Come on over. We need help. We need more people.
Imagine if this podcast like results in a mass exodus of all our primary music specialists into different parts of the world. My name will be
So
Mud.
mine too.
And so I'm interested in all of that, but with all those different nationalities, how does
Mm.
that affect the content of the curriculum in terms of genres and styles and traditions and things that are covered? Do you feel like you've got to do a little bit of everything so that everybody's included, or do you have to kind of make some tough decisions about what it is that you actually focus on?
So we're not, oh, such a good question. I mean, curriculum is just this enormous thing in itself, isn't it? As something which,
Mm.
again, I've had to spend a lot of time stepping back and really examining what's necessary for this particular school. Um, so I might just start with the beginning of that and then answer that question. I think that would
Of
be
course, yeah.
easier. Because I think what you have to do, and this is where I come back to the challenges for all music teachers everywhere, the mission, is we've got to look at what the school want from us. We've got to look at the things that we have to tick curriculum wise. Sorry in advance, but we're not tied. We're not tied. So I'm not going to be inspected on whether I'm delivering the exact English national curriculum. Nobody's coming in with a clipboard to check that. So we have agency within our curriculum, and that agency, I believe, belongs to the teachers. So where are our experiences? What are we bringing to this? I've got there's three very experienced teachers there. So, it's not my place to start saying, well, we're following this scheme and doing this lesson today and this lesson. So we have teacher agency, and then we've got student agency. And we have to be completely open-minded to the fact that these children, some of them have lived all around the world. Some of them have never left their small, Mubans where they live in, with their families, their close-knit families, and would like to be exposed to more music than they're getting at home. In Thailand, there's this huge kind of karaoke tradition of, everybody loves to sing along to songs and get down to it. There's a great sort of classical tradition here too. There's
Mhm.
fantastic orchestras. There's universities that run amazing, more traditional music programs, Western classical tradition. So the first thing I think was we've got to look at the requirements of the school. We've got to look at that whole melting pot of children and how we can make sure that the agency is getting in there. We're going to look at the teacher team that we have, because I don't want any teacher who's working in our department to come to school and not enjoy being there. We have to get up in the morning. Nobody gets up in the morning to do a bad job. Everybody wants to go to work, enjoy their day, come home again, enjoy some of the perks of being in Thailand, right? So that's really important to me as well. And that sense of having a team, a solid team who are enjoying things, makes it more enjoyable for the children. And that's very much embedded in the culture of our school too. We're encouraged to be happy teachers, happy parents, happy children, community feel to it as well. And then we have got the tick boxes of things that we believe that the children should be doing, but we just have a little bit more say over what we think that might be. So that's the kind of background that we're coming to. So in a way, it's a blank canvas, and in a way, it's not a blank canvas, because we're all bringing our own beliefs and our own sort of traditional experiences into that as well. So making sense of that took me quite a while, and working out, okay, well, where do we start with this? So, in terms to actually answer the actual question now, what do we teach? I don't really feel I'm the right person to be teaching Thai music, Thai classical music, because I'm going to westernize it. That's what I know. I would be trying to translate it into my own brain to make sense of musical sound that was never meant to be westernized. So, therefore, I don't feel that's something that I'm either qualified or in a position to do well. So we have a Thai music program. It's quite foundational, but it's being run by our Thai department, who take on a huge amount of responsibility for ensuring that Thai culture is firmly embedded through the school. And that's supported by my colleague, who's really passionate about Thai music, and she is Thai. So she's taken on that role to support the Thai music program, not externally from us, but externally from us, because that's where it really sits within the kind of layers of the school. And then within that, we've got a blank canvas there to bring in music of all sorts of different styles, different genres, different choices. So we make those choices. I make those choices on music which I love, but also which I can see the children respond and react to. So the way to find those pieces of music is just to get it out there so that they're hearing lots and lots of music. So with my younger years, the year ones, we'll always walk into a piece of music. We might be, if it has a pulse, that's regular. We might tap along to it as we walk and make our circle or whatever, but always, always watching the children respond, because then I can find out, okay, well, I can hear you like that. The other day I played, it was a festival here, and that festival has a song that everybody knows, and all the Thai children sing along to it. All the Thai community love this song. Found an orchestral version of it, played the orchestral version, and watched these kids go, because it sounded the same and it sounded different. And that opened up a whole world of, did you like that? What did it sound like? Discussion. So I think it's about making sure. And then a child will say, oh, Miss Anna, I was walking through school today, like randomly, like you do, holding some DJ decks in a box, because I had to take it from one place to the other. And the number of I've got one of those in my home. Oh, Miss Anna, what's that you've got there? Oh, what's this? So I then know that we've got quite a lot of electronic music in year one. I didn't know that before. So, you've got to kind of be out there and picking up the things and picking up everything. I can't accommodate all 60 nationalities, but what I would like to do is make sure that the department is open for those children to feel that they have a place and they have an opportunity and space and a voice to bring that in, should an opportunity arise to do that. And we do run a big music competition every year where we'll get entries from children playing traditional instruments. There's an opportunity. We just try to encourage it as much as possible, but we're not 100% there yet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the aim, isn't it, to be as inclusive as possible, but the more children you've got, the more difficult that becomes. And it sounds like you've got a really good balance there of kind of respecting those traditions and doing all the things you need to do and making sure that there is, everyone has a voice and everyone has something that they can chime with, I suppose, and that you're open to ideas as well. If children come to you with ideas, that's fantastic. And I can't quite in my mind understand how you're managing to do that with the volume of children that you're seeing all day, every day. It's interesting. You've used the word programs quite a lot. So how does that work in terms of, would that be equivalent to what we refer to as like a program of study here, or a unit, or are they separate strands?
It's how we've kind of labelled all the bits in our curriculum. I think I picked it up from Australia because they call everything a music program there. But in a way, we have to compartmentalize all the things we do to make them manageable. So I would call it a Thai music program, because I feel that I think of everything as strands really that sit alongside each other. So we'll have our curriculum music program, and we'll have our key stage, but I wouldn't call it a key stage 1 program. That's just our music lessons. That's our curriculum. The instrument program, the instrumental program, is a piece of work. Like, it's a big chunk of what we do, and it needs its own specific kind of management style and hours put into it. It's almost like project managing this. So the instrument program. Then we have our music academy, which is our music lessons that take place in the school. And then we have our ECA program, which is our after school activities. So I think it's just about how we define them to keep it manageable within this whole sort of enormousness of what this role has grown into and what's possible in the school, really.
And are they informing each other, those, or are they very separately? How does that work?
They do. So my belief has always been, you get the curriculum right, you get the classroom right, and the kids will come back for more. And that's been proved everywhere I've ever worked. And it's, a lot of people think it's the other way around. You offer a lot of enrichment opportunities. You've got a great orchestra. I disagree. Where are all the children that are in your music class? And every child is in that music class. That is where our responsibility lies, first and foremost. Everything else will grow from that if you get it right. So if the children are coming into music where they feel that they're in a safe environment, where what they're doing matters, where how they feel about what they're doing is important. What's important to them is important to us, where the relationships are right and balanced and welcoming, but they know who's in charge. But equally, here's our boundaries and this is where we don't go past. But actually, underneath this, we do want to inspire your creativity and your individual personalities here, because that's what music is. So the other things that sit around it, I think it's all about that once a week when they come to us, or twice a week, Key Stage 1, getting that right. So then everything else grows out from it. So we offer our ECAs that we offer in music, those are the teacher-led ones. So those are the ones that we will take. And because there's only 3 of us, and because we've only got so many hours in a week, and lives and things, we've had to really say, look, where are our specialisms, and who can, so someone can take the orchestra and really kind of work on nurturing and growing that. Somebody else can head up the choirs and the singing and really nurture and grow that. My colleague who works in the early years, she's can nurture and grow that alongside working with the Thai music. And then everything else we've had to kind of pass over to our music academy. That's where parents will then pay for that additional stuff. And that's just because we just don't have capacity to do that within our own, because we're busy, we're teaching the timetables and we're managing everything else. And then I guess the other program is events. And I do call that the events program because it is monstrous and ridiculous and all my own fault. Because I'm fortunate I have this amazing senior leadership team where we can do as much as we want to do. And that's both a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because sometimes you do need someone to say, stop, you don't need to go and do this event. Really, do you need to do another trip? They will never say that, because when I sat down and I asked my line manager when I first took over the role, what do you want from your music program? Isn't that the first question that we should all be asking? Doesn't matter who we are. What do you want from your music program in this school? What is it your expectation? And he said, well, we want every child to get on that stage and perform once a year, and we want everybody to have opportunities. All right. Well, there you go. That's easy, isn't it? So that means that every child will perform in something once a year. And then around that, that's where my job is to make sure that we don't forget composing and the creativity and all the other stuff, because otherwise we're just going to become a performing academy, and that's that's not what anybody wants. So the events program, it is mad, and I'm slightly up to my eyes at the moment in it. We get all of those performances over and done with at Christmas. Mm-hmm. We've looked at trying to spread them through the year. We can't spread them through the year. So by Christmas this year, every single child in our school, in the primary school, will have performed on stage to their parents, done a performance, and then we can tick that box and that requirement, and then we can go back into our kind of schemes of work and start to build towards what we're doing next year. But alongside that, the international school community is huge. So we have music festivals, we have choral festivals, we have trips and visits we can do. Last year we were fortunate to go to Shanghai, and we took a group of children to play in a festival there. We're going to a big choral festival in January, taking kids to that. So all of that involves trips planning, trips coordinating, communicating with parents. I saw that face, Liz. I felt like you're reflecting back at me how I felt today when I was sending all these emails to parents, and then the parents are writing back to me confirming what I just said in said email. And I said, yes, that's right. You're correct. Your child is in all of these concerts. The string groups in this one, the orchestra's in that one. We're going to wear T-shirts, that kind of thing. So I feel like I'm an events manager. I'm a curriculum teacher. I am, oh gosh, quite a lot of things. Trips coordinator, fixer of issues, calendar manager, stage manager, musical director, whatever. But it's awesome, and it's never boring. And I think when you see, this was the other thing that I wrote down when I was really thinking about what it is that's the same about my ridiculously big program and those different programs in the UK. It's that moment those children have where something changes because they've made music, or they've done something in music that has caused a change. And that change could be anything from, this kind of feeling of achievement or success, or something they're going to remember just for the weirdest reasons. We've got no way of knowing what that is, but creating those opportunities for those children through music, wherever they are, at whatever level they're accessing music, that's what I think it's about. And how that looks doesn't matter. Who's doing it doesn't matter. It's just about making sure that all those children have that opportunity. And that's why I think we get up each day and go again.
I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think you're so right. And I think anybody can do that in their context at their level.
Mm.
So you don't have to have a huge budget or lots of teachers, or you can do it in a tiny little school. You can do it in a medium-sized school. You can do it with non-specialists. It's just about putting the children at the centre of the process, really, isn't it? And making sure that you're doing whatever you can do that is right for them at the time.
Yeah. And I'm not going to underestimate how hard that is, because we're all battling against different things that come at us every day. And again, those challenges might be different, but they're still there. And it's our job as people who actually care about music and care about the children having that access to music, to think of ways that we can just advocate for what we're doing, do it, try it, prove its value, try again, engage more children, learn from the experience. It's a continual cycle of learning. That's the one thing that I would say, when I started teaching in that little secondary school, goodness knows how long ago, I have not stopped learning since. And even for this podcast, listening to some of your former episodes, I sat down and it made me think and it made me reflect. And I thought, yeah, I've still got a long way to go. And I've still got, things that I'm learning every day from people who are doing the same job as me, or from people who are doing different jobs from me, or people who have tried something else. And I think that's really key, isn't it? It's about we don't stand still, and something will come up and block us here. We'll just find a way around, and we'll try this time, and then next time we'll go again for this, and it might get blocked here. So we're continually just needing to prove that value, and the proof really is in those children and the impact it can have on them, I think.
Absolutely agreed. So being careful how I phrase this, because I don't want to paint you into a corner. Um, you've been in Thailand for a while now, and a lot of certainly my experience of sort of working with international teachers is a lot of them hop around a lot on kind of 2-year
Mm.
contracts, and they're moving around the world. But you stayed put. Do you kind of feel like, is that home for you now? Can you see a time where I mean, I don't want to talk you into saying things that are going to make your school think you're leaving, but far in the future, do you
Well,
think,
it
do
is
you think this is
recruitment.
it for you?
It's recruitment season now, people. So if you are going to come, now's the time to start looking. There's a lot of jobs up at the moment when people do move. Um, it's different, I think, for everybody. So I came out with my family, and one of the amazing opportunities is that we have a free school place for our children. So my husband's school, my husband has one child with him in his school. I have one child with him with me in my school, because we have very different children and we're working in very different schools, even though my husband and I both do the same job. And we were very fortunate that we were able to do that. So there's an aspect of the family needing to feel settled and to feel happy, and that has its ups and downs with all families who come out to teach. But actually, there's no such thing as a perfect international school. But my husband and I are both really fortunate that we do love our schools, and as long as it's no different from any other job or anything else, as long as you're happy in the school that you're in and you've still got things to achieve and things to get done, then would stay. And does Thailand feel like home? That's such a timely question, because I had a dream last night and I woke up feeling really homesick for the UK. I'm just like, oh my God. Every now and again, it just gets you, and just think, wow, I'm a really long way from home. But this is our 7th year here now. We came for 2, and COVID just kind of changed everything for us, and changed all of our plans. Um, so I feel like you live on this, never take it for granted. You can never really say for sure where you'll be. We have family in the UK. My son's now at uni there. My daughter has just finished uni there, and she's come back to Thailand. She's also in a music department in an international school now as an intern. There's 3 of us, 3 different primary schools, 3 very different programs, and 3 of us around the table going, oh, we do know a song about sheep. Yeah, I do. So it's yeah. The, going into it's you can jump and try it, and you can always go home. And when it's time to go home, I think it's time. But what the cause of that will be, I think it remains unknown. So you do have to sort of, just have this level of confidence, but also not take anything for granted. I'm really, really lucky. My school is awesome. That if anything happens and you need time or you need to go back to the UK, they're very supportive to be able to do that. Not every international school is like that. Um, so yeah, I can't answer. I can't answer right now because who knows? That's part of the fun, isn't it? Because if you'd have asked me 20 years ago, where will you be in 20 years? I'd probably say, oh yeah, here, because it wouldn't have crossed my mind. And I'm not there now. I'm here, but it does. I miss lots of the things that we have had to leave behind, but they're still there. So it's we'll see. Don't know. Don't know.
Well, you're definitely more intrepid than me. I mean, I've been very Midlands based, other than popping off to university in different places for my entire life and career. And we moved actually also around COVID time. We moved from where I lived, just in the outskirts of Birmingham, to a little bit further out where my husband's family are from. And in week 2, I cried because I missed my hometown. We literally moved 6 miles away. I'm so pathetic. I'm
Yeah,
all
this
right
this might
now.
not be for you, Liz. This international thing, it might not be quite your bag. But never say never. You just don't know. You come out here and you kind of feel it and you go, wow. Well, who knows? I'm too busy, too busy doing everything to think about anything else apart from where I'm going to spend Christmas and what countries we haven't visited yet, because that's a huge part of it too. I'm really opening up my own kids' outlook.
Mhm.
Is actually more important to me than I thought it was before we came. So just the things that they've had a chance to experience and see, and the travel that they've been able to do, I feel has been something that I never had as a child and
Mm.
would really have benefited from. I think it would have sort of set me off on my teaching career from a very different start point than I had. So I'm grateful for that too.
I think you're right, and I'm thinking now maybe that's why I'm the way I am, because we went to the same place in Wales twice a year, every year, from when I was
Yeah.
like 6 weeks old till, oh well, like last year.
Yeah, us too, Liz. It was probably the same place, Tenby.
Yeah,
Understood.
Pembrokeshire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I absolutely love it. And we do go back in the summer and we go there with the family trip, and it means so much more now because it does have that kind of, oh but yeah, we're going back to do that family stuff. It is very special. And the friendships that we came out when the children were older, so their relationships were very well formed with friends and family, and they
Mm.
were independent and old enough to keep those connections themselves with the family. So for the kids, it's kind of felt like a temporary absence more than it would do, I think, if you brought your kids out or had kids out here. That would be a
Mm.
little bit of a different situation. You'd be growing up away from the family, but we did have all of that before we came. So I think that also helps. Those relationships are well
Yeah.
established.
So home is the same place for all of you, regardless, really.
Yes. Again, when I was first coming out and doing this at the schools, my colleague, he would always ask everyone, where is home? It was his question, his stock question, where's home for you? The answers are always really fascinating. Right now, I think home is here in this apartment, with the dogs and everything else, but it's not complete until I have all the kids here, and you know, and then we go home for our visits each year, and I'm going home. So it's a very funny thing that I think would feel different for everybody involved. And then the sense of community that you do build out here is really important because you haven't got that support network that you had. So, the community at school of supporting each other, and there's a fantastic music network, Bangkok Music Teachers Network here, that's got a meet up tomorrow in a pub, and everybody will meet up there and meets quite regularly, so we all know each other. So that's another kind of support network that we have, and that's celebrating its 10-year anniversary this year, which is amazing. So for 10 years, there's been a network of music teachers here in this city, in working in the international schools, and that's just grown and grown as teachers have come and gone. And that's an amazing thing to have too. And actually something probably wouldn't have had in the UK because
Mm.
you don't need it as much in the same way. But we're just as isolated really as music teachers in our big schools as teachers are in the UK, feeling isolated in the fact that we are specialists and we do sit aside from, the classroom teachers and that's that aspect of school life. So even though there are three of us and none are visiting specialists, and we chat to everybody, you still can have that sense of isolation sometimes. So
Mhm.
these networks are even more important, I think.
I dread to ask this question because I feel it's very unfair given all the stuff you're already doing. But
All right. Okay.
what are the plans for the future? What are the other things that you would like to do as and when you get capacity and the ability to do them?
Wow. I think the only thing that's really stopping us at the moment from growing is space. So because we're in that situation, as lots of schools are, the student body grows faster than the accommodation can grow with it. So we really are just restricted by space. So give us some practice rooms, give us a rehearsal room, the orchestra will be bigger, give us an auditorium and our performances, we can do more in a different way there. Give us another classroom teacher, but that's not how these things work. International schools, that's it's very much aside. The space issue, I think that's what's limiting us right now. But specifically on my wish list really is I would love to be able to work with my instrumental teachers to get lots more general music into those 1 hour a week music lessons. So, as with a lot of visiting instrumental teachers, they've come through quite a traditional way of learning, one-to-one lessons, and here they are in small groups. We've worked with them, and they're absolutely brilliant now working with those small groups and getting a lot closer to being able to engage all the kids. We've tried to stop this kind of feeling that's very prevalent in lots of international schools, which is, performance is everything and it's got to be note perfect. And if it's note perfect, someone's going to get in trouble. So we're going to play hot cross buns every week for an hour for 6 weeks until it's perfect, and say, actually, no, that's not what we want. These parents want to see their kids up on the stage with their trumpet, and if they play a wrong note, it's all part of it. We're not
Mhm.
about this. We're not about the outcome and the polish. We're about the journey, and we're about the nurturing and the whole enrichment that sits around all of those things. So what I feel our next step there is to try and get those instrumental teachers more confident with composing, improvising, and using the instrument as a tool. But that's very difficult because our year fives have had one lesson on their trumpets and it isn't pleasant. And we've got a long way to go until they can actually make a sound. And there's our biggest group of trumpets this year is 16. Oh, it's hard. 16 trumpets, beginners, they can barely hold
Mm.
it. So yeah, we've got a bit of a way to go and we have to be realistic about that. But I would really love it to be, you know, holistic. So that's the second one. Boys and singing, post-COVID, we're struggling a bit there. So in our choir of 70, there's not as many boys as I would like. And so really thinking of strategies just to engage boys in singing. That could be through choice of repertoire. It could be about role models. Our second teacher is a male teacher, which is great. So he's leading singing and is able to sort of manage changing voices and help us with that. And he's a singing specialist. So we're very fortunate to have that in place. But that's really important because I feel we're getting a bit skewed.
Mm.
And it should be for everyone. So that's big on my wish list. Um, and I guess just the relationship with the rest of the school is an interesting one because we have so many events and it's not just music events. There's always a theme week or a theme day or sometimes two or three on the same day. And all of the classroom teachers are really supportive of all of these events. There's only so much that they can do. And again, they've got the same challenges with space and the rapid growth of the school as we do. And also having a very mixed intake of children.
Mm.
These are normal classes with a huge range of abilities and needs and everything else, and the diversity within the school that takes managing. So it's moved away from when it used to be a smaller school of music being, for everybody and everybody getting a bit involved and doing a little bit. The reality is they can't do as much, and that's hard. that's hard for us as specialists. Sometimes we feel a bit put upon, and we're the babysitters, as all specialists do. And I know that there are some teachers who've done music in the UK and taught music to their classes who potentially might feel a bit sad to not do any music now. You know, they go off to music and we don't do any. So we're trying to find them. So I've got a couple who are going to come and play their instruments in the teacher band that I play at the end of term. We're trying to encourage them to come along to the instrument lessons if they'd like to. I mean, that's early days for that, but that's something else that I would love it to become, just welcoming and inclusive, but just whilst understanding that the time commitments, it's not because they all hate music, it's just because there is so much else on everybody's plate.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can try and get the word out, hey, look, that year 6 teacher played his clarinet in the teacher band in the end of term assembly. Anyone else play the clarinet? I've got loads of clarinets up in the cupboard. Come on over. That's where I'd like to try to work to across the next couple of years as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's lots more.
I think you've got enough on your plate, Anna. Maybe just like slow yourself down a bit.
I don't know. I'd get bored if I didn't have lots of things to do. Nobody wants to ever get bored at standstill, do we?
No, that is true. And I think your school's really lucky that they've found you, and they've got such a positive person who's really engaged in the process and always wants to make things better. I imagine, are very, very happy to have you. And so I know our listeners will have got loads out of that. And hopefully it will encourage maybe some more teachers in international schools to come and talk to me, because I really would like to chat to people who are not just, in fact, we've been England. It's not even just UK. We've been just in England so far. So we've branched out very far away now. So I would like to talk to teachers in, Wales and Scotland and Ireland and also all other parts of the world. And I think this episode is a good starting point to show that we can all learn from each other, regardless of what our different contexts are, our different locations are. But thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed that chat, and good luck with everything that you do in the future.
Thank you very much, and come over and see us. You're very welcome.
I will do, but I might cry if I stay for too long.
We don't want that. Thank you, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you. Gosh, there was so much to take away from that discussion with Anna. Obviously, a totally different ball game from what we've heard from our previous guests. Huge numbers of children coming through that school, whole different setup in terms of number of staff and all the different programs that are happening. So really kind of fascinating. But at the core of it, you could still hear that it's the same stuff that Anna worries about, that we worry about in our schools as well, wherever we are in the world. So making sure that all the children have the chance to be musical, to feel musical, to achieve their musical ambitions. And as we said in the discussion, you can do that at any scale. You can do it whether you're a small school or a huge school or anywhere in between, as long as you keep the children at the centre of that process. It was also really interesting to hear from Anna towards the end of that discussion about the sort of importance of the creative side and not becoming this kind of performance factory, which some international schools encourage, as she was saying, because that's a kind of theme that's coming out a little bit already, even in just the early part of season 2 of this podcast, this importance of the creativity side, the children creating their own music, not just being drilled into performing perfectly the music of other people. And it's something that we've talked about in the context of the curriculum and assessment review over here. And I think it's something that's going to come up frequently and in more depth, I think, as we go through this season. I think this has probably given a lot of people FOMO. I think that there will be people checking out international jobs. As Anna said, it is recruitment season. So perhaps if you're looking for a change, you might fancy a little trip to somewhere else in the world if you are a UK-based listener. I'm not endorsing that. I'm also not telling you can't do it, but don't blame me if all of a sudden we've got 0 primary music specialists left in the UK because you've all gone off to sunnier climes. I would just point out, Anna did say it is raining in Thailand. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe wherever you're listening, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can also subscribe to our channel there. You can join our mailing list. There are instructions for how to do that in the podcast notes or underneath the video on YouTube. You can follow us on our socials, which are at Music Ed Solution at pretty much every social media network that currently exists. And we would love to hear from you, especially because, as you know, we are on the shortlist for the Music and Drama Education Expo. And so it would be really lovely to start hearing from people about what the podcast means to them, maybe some little things that we can get proud of and be publishing and helping the judges to make their decisions, perhaps. It would be lovely to hear from you if you found that the podcast has impacted the way that you do things. You can chat to us on socials. You can send us an email. You can find the email address on our website. We would really, really love to hear from you to see how things are shaping up for you in your school as a result of some of the things that you've learnt on the podcast. We are about almost halfway through this season. We're already starting to think about recording for season 3. There are still some opportunities for you to get involved with that. So do get in touch with us, please, if you would like to talk about music in your school wherever you are in the world. But for now, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and please do join us for the rest of season 2 and catch up with season 1 as well, wherever you get your podcasts. Primary Music in Conversation is presented by Dr. Liz Stafford, edited by Kay Charlton, and produced by Music Education Solutions.